on a warm Sunday afternoon in Miami. The roof is closed at Marlins Park. The Diamondbacks and the Marlins finishing off a three-game series. The Marlins would like to end this seven-game losing streak. The Diamondbacks right now riding high, first place in the West. A Kids Sunday Little League parade. A lot of energy in the ballpark as the Marlins and the Diamondbacks finish this series. Hi, everyone. Rich Waltz along with Tommy Hutton. Welcome to a Sunday of baseball here in Miami. My partner in the seventh inning of every game is charged with recapping the ball game. And last night it was easy for him. All he had to do was say two words: Gerardo Parra.
Yeah, Parra was the offense in the game last night. I thought you were going to say in the seventh inning they used to have Harry Carey sing "Take Me Out the Ball Game." What did he say after that? He would say, let's get some runs.
But last night it was the Gerardo Parra show, and that show started on the first pitch of the ball game.
Yeah, pretty amazing. This guy's a well-kept secret. He flies under the radar. Gerardo Parra is 26 years old. He's had 4 very solid years with the Arizona Diamondbacks. In 2011, he won a Gold Glove. He's got a strong arm. We saw that last night. The only opportunity, the Marlins had a chance to score on that base hit by Coghlan. He nailed Dietrich at the plate. So a guy who's under the radar, but a very, very good outfielder in the major leagues.
Of course, Brandon McCarthy was pretty good last night for the Diamondbacks as well, which turns us to the pitching tonight. Now, Ricky Nolasco, his last time out, had an inning that was very un-Nolasco-like. He walked 2 runs in, something he rarely has done in his career, and he's looking to straighten things out today.
Yeah, it's all about command with Ricky, and it's about first inning command. In his career, batters hit over 300 against Ricky Nolasco in the first inning, so we'll watch for that in this one today. Gave up 6 runs. You mentioned the walks with the bases loaded. You just don't see that from Ricky Nolasco. Hopes to bounce back. He's 5-2 in his career against the Arizona Diamondbacks.
And he has not had a whole lot of run support. Coventry Healthcare brings you today's starters. Now, Wade Miley was second in the Rookie of the Year voting last year, but his last start, he got lit up by Atlanta.
Yeah, he's coming off a poor outing, but Miley off to a pretty good year, won 16 games and was pretty much in first place in all the rookie pitching categories last year.
It didn't work last night, but we're going right back at it tonight. Pick to Click, round 2 is coming up. Marlins and Diamondbacks moments away in Miami. Center field, two big kids. Craig Minervini, Jeff Conine.
All right, thank you very much, Rich. And here we are getting set for Game 3 of this series. And, Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about something maybe that's gone by the wayside in terms of people's attention, and that's the defense for the Marlins, especially in the infield.
Well, especially that left side of the infield. You know, ARI Echeverria was part of that Toronto Blue Jays trade, brought him in this past offseason, and they knew he had a glove. They knew he had the glove. They want him to hit a little bit more, but he has not disappointed with this glove. I mean, talk about phenomenal defense. He's played 29 games and only has made one error so far this year. You see the good heads-up play right there, nabbing Cody Ross at third base. A lot of times you don't see that guy. He'll make the play to first base. But Polanco as well, third baseman coming over, has only made one error as well at third base. So two errors on the left side of the infield. Echeverria last night, outstanding play, blocking that ball right there, picking the throw from Rob Brantley to get that runner at second base. So very impressed with his defense.
All right, and that leads us to our pick to click. We've been trying to help the Marlins snap the schneid here of 7-game losing streak. So didn't work last night. So here's our pick to click names tonight. And I got this in last night on the air, so no one could beat me to it. Echeverria is my pick.
I basically took the catching position.
Okay.
I thought Olivo might get a start today, but Jeff Mathis getting a start, so he's my pick.
All right, and then we got Ozuna for Waltz, Polanco for Hutton, Ruggiano for Raul, Nolasco for Cookie. That's an interesting one. Do we have a total bases and RBI? You know what? Why not? We've seen Ricky come up with some big hits.
Why not?
And 1 point was the winner last night.
1 point, that three-way tie with only 1 point.
We'll update it during the game and after the game. Who's your pick? How about the Fish here? See if they can get one against the Snakes. Good pitching matchup. Lefty Wade Miley takes on Ricky Nolasco. Got the ball game coming up, and Jeff and I will see you for Marlins Live post game. Everybody, thanks for watching.
In Miami on a Sunday, the Marlins and the red-hot Arizona Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks won the first two of this series. They've won 4 straight. They sit in first in the West. And Ricky Nolasco, who is 5-2 in his career against Arizona, will try to slow him down. First order of business, keep the ball in the ballpark in the first inning. The Diamondbacks have used first-inning home runs to fuel both of their wins. And here is Gerardo Parra, who banged one out on the first pitch last night against Tom Kohler, and the count is 1-0. In game 1, Paul Goldschmidt a 2-run homer and Eric Chavez a solo shot. Those were first inning blows as well. Little bunt, and Jeff Mathis picks it up in foul territory. Counts 1-1.
Well, Parra has just been a hot hitter, period. Has a 7-game hitting streak. hitting over 460 during that time. And is third in the National League in base hits.
4 hits in this series. Didi Gregorius, Paul Goldschmidt also coming up against Nolasco. Ricky looking for win number 3. And a breaking ball for a strike. It'll be fun to watch Nolasco work with Jeff Mathis, a terrific receiver, always known for his catching abilities. Ricky getting a bit of a call there from Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire. And Parra couldn't hold up on that one. He goes around. Fielding Cobra at the third base umpire rings him up.
Good to see the sharp bite in that Ricky breaking ball in the first inning.
All right, here comes the Diamondbacks lineup. Gerardo Parra, you just saw him. Didi Gregorius has been really impressive in this series, as has Paul Goldschmidt. There's been a Jason Kubel sighting, and he's in left, and he's hitting cleanup. Our old friend Cody Ross in right. Martin Prado's at third. Miguel Montero catching. Good glove at second. Cliff Pennington. And Wade Miley can do some damage with the bat. He's in the 9 spot. And here is Gregorius, who fouls it back. Didi Gregorius, a terrific name and a terrific player. The shortstop out of Curacao, acquired in the offseason from the Reds, has really lit it up. He's just 23. He's been dynamite with the glove, and his offensive numbers have been a pleasant surprise to Kirk Gibson. 0-2. Nolasco's really spinning it right now.
That's always a great sign early in the game for Ricky. I guess the Diamondbacks fans could refer to these guys as the G-men, Gregorius and Goldschmidt. On the road, those two guys are hitting .392, 47 for 120.
Gregorius pokes that one into left field, and he's on base with a 1-out single. And an overthrow, but Green is right behind it, and Gregorius is picked off. There's nobody at first, but Gregorius is tagged out.
But Ozuna had come all the way in from right field, and thankfully there was somebody that was getting close to first base.
What a weird play. Here's the overthrow from Coughlin, and Gregorius thought he could take second.
Well, heads up on Green's part for being there, and certainly not familiar with the first base position. And then the tag applied by Dietrich. And then in the meantime, look at Ozuna racing in. He was getting near first base, so just in case he was there.
Here's Goldschmidt, and he sends one right up the box and almost hit Nolasco into center field. The G-men, as Tommy pointed out, have a pair of hits here in the first. But with Gregorius getting caught, 2 outs, runner at first. Here's the defense. It's brought to you by the Cleveland Clinic, Florida.
Well, you saw Chris Coughlin in left field. Ruggiano and Ozuna. Polanco, Echeverria solid on the left side. Dietrich, Nick Green getting a rare start at first base. And Jeff Mathis behind the plate.
Jason Kubel now. Kubel has been injured. And for the Diamondbacks, as we pointed out, they have terrific depth in their outfield with Cody Ross and Gerardo Parra both playing well. Fastball misses up. A.J. Pollock's been in center field. Kubel, who came over last year and had a career-type year, hitting 30 homers, drove in 90 runs. But he spent some time on the disabled list with a strained quad.
You know, it's one of those things, Rich, early in the year. And remember, they traded Justin Upton. Early in the year, Cody Ross was on the disabled list, and Kubel was on the disabled list. And all of a sudden, their outfield was a little thin. But they're healthy now, and that's not the case.
And Adam Eaton, the guy that they projected to start in center field, is still on the disabled list. I think the moral of the story is that everybody has injuries. The Reds have injuries. We saw them come in and play well. The Diamondbacks have injuries. They're playing well right now. The good teams are able to overcome that. Kubel with 3 homers and 9 RBIs. And a fly ball towards the line. It's a long run for Coghlan. Chris looks up and he makes the catch. Well, Ricky Nolasco, a scoreless firsts. We're underway. And here come the fish. Adeiny Echeverria, Placido Polanco, Derek Dietrich, Marcelo Zuna, Justin Ruggiano, Chris Coghlan, Nick Green, Jeff Mathis, and Ricky Nolasco. That's the Marlins order. Facing a very good lefty in Wade Miley, a sandwich pick in 2008 between the first and the second round out of Southeast Louisiana University. He works fast and he works well. And last year he was nearly the Rookie of the Year in the National League.
An All-Star last year. First ever Diamondbacks rookie to make the All-Star team.
Adeiny Echeverria runs up. Echeverria missing on the bunt. For Echeverria, 1 for 8 series.
Oh, 2. Because of the left-hander out there, Echeverria finds himself at the very top of the order. I know Mike Redmond's talked about his ideal lineup. He likes Echeverria hitting in the number 2 spot.
Well, with Juan Pierre out, Chris Coghlan in, Echeverria probably has the best base stealing abilities. Coghlan slotted in the 6th spot, Polanco up in the 2 spot. Outside corner at the knees, Echeverria. Down he goes. Defense brought to you by the Cleveland Clinic, Florida.
Some interchangeable pieces out there in the outfield. Kubel in the lineup is in left. Parra moves over to center, and of course we know Cody can play right field. Prado and Gregorius. Pennington gets the start at second base. Goldschmidt and Montero's caught all 3 games.
Polanco, couple hits in this series. Then you got Dietrich behind him. Miley's pitch is sliced down the right field line, and it's foul. Maybe the most impressive thing about the Diamondbacks, and you don't really associate the Diamondbacks with this, their pitching has been dynamite. You always think about the Diamondbacks just scoring a slew of runs and in Arizona in a great hitter's ballpark. But their starting pitching has been really good. Their bullpen has been very good. ERA-wise, in the National League, they're in the upper third, which for the Diamondbacks is terrific.
You know, we haven't seen the Giants this year. Saw the Dodgers. And you would expect those three teams will be the teams to watch in that Western Division. But I know both you and I are impressed with the Diamondbacks and what they present out there on the field.
3.38 is the team ERA. That's actually tied for third in the National League. St. Louis, Washington, and the two teams that have been through here already, the Reds and the Diamondbacks. Both tied for third. Derek Dietrich is on deck. Counts full, 3-2. That one's sent in the air to center, and there's a lot of room out there. And Parra runs it down.
Think about it, Rich. The Diamondbacks, Kirk Gibson has two outfielders in Parra and Cody Ross who can play all three outfield positions very well.
Yeah, that's a luxury.
Yes, it is.
You always want at least a couple guys who can play center field. And if you've got guys who can play center field and play it very well, and you spread them out all over the outfield, you're going to have great range. And I think with the Diamondbacks' home ballpark, much like Marlins Park, that would be your blueprint. That's what you're looking for, is guys that can go gap to gap, go get balls. Here's Dietrich now. And Dietrich takes down low. Miley works very quickly. He doesn't spend any time walking around the back of the mound, fooling around. You can see him shake his head. He's not real happy that Dietrich stepped out. He wants to get it and throw it and get it and throw it again.
Well, you heard last night, you heard Brandon McCarthy talk about how he really enjoyed being on the same page all night with Montero behind the plate. And it looks like Miley and Montero are on that same page, too.
Dietrich swings and misses, and Wade Miley looks like the Wade Miley of last year. A 1-2-3 first.
Be in high definition. It's brought to you by H.H. Gregg. A little Bayside action. Scoreless. Cheesesteaks. It means Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, and the Phillies are coming. 3-game series, and it's all you can eat. For just $22, Outback Steakhouse, South Florida Heroes Monday as well. Military, veterans, police, firefighters, first responders can receive free tickets. Go to Marlins.com today. Yeah, the Phillies are here for 3. Well, Wade Miley was certainly impressive in the first. Ricky Nolasco tries to match him. Sees his old buddy Cody Ross with Martin Prado and Miguel Montero right behind.
Yeah, the Phillies will send Cole Hamels, Tyler Cloyd, and Cliff Lee in the 3-game series. The Marlins have Alex Sanabia tomorrow night. Jose Fernandez, it's always a good one to mark down on the calendar. Jose on Tuesday night, and Kevin Slowey on Wednesday.
Then the Marlins with an off day, and then it's into the American League and into Chicago for Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You see Robin Ventura's White Sox.
Nolasco with the count 2-1. Ricky with quite a bit of history against the Diamondbacks. This is his 9th start. He's 5-2, an ERA about 4.5. His old buddy Cody Ross has faced him 8 times and is 3 for 8 with a couple doubles.
Boy, the guy with the long track record against Ricky is Martin Prado. Of course, all their matchups, Braves and Marlins.
Here's the 2-2. In that Braves lineup, is it Brian McCann that has the big numbers against Ricky?
Well, unfortunately, they have more than one guy. But McCann, I think, was one of them.
And I think Freddie Freeman and possibly Chipper Jones, but obviously Chipper's out of eligibility. Here's the 2-2. Breaking ball, Cody was on it, and he drills it into left field for a base hit.
It's one of those pitches that I don't think Cody was guessing, but he had the type of swing that he picked up this breaking ball right away. He had that kind of swing. Didn't fool him at all.
Here is the aforementioned Martin Prado. Got the big eye black going. It's one of the unique things about this ballpark. Ground ball, Green on a knee out there, and that's all they'll get. Nice play by Green. Prado gets down to first base.
Seems like the couple of times Nick Green has gotten that start at first base, he gets tested early with a tough play, and he makes this one nicely. Strong throw. I don't know if they had a play at first, but Ricky didn't get over there real fast either.
One of the unique things about this ballpark, Tommy, is there's not, in a day game like this, there's not a whole lot of glare that bothers players or television cameras or fans as opposed to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Because Milwaukee has windows on a side where the sun actually sets, and the sunlight comes streaming through about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it can be an issue for everybody.
There's a lot of light that streams into Chase Field too in Arizona, but not quite like it does in Milwaukee.
Miguel Montero staring down third base way. Matt Williams, third base coach for the Diamondbacks. It looks like he could still go out there and hit 40 homers. Prado back.
Matt Williams had that incredible year in 1994.
Shortened by the strike.
shortened by the strike. In the '94 season, Matt Williams had 43 home runs.
How many games?
112 games.
And many thought that had that season not been shortened by the strike, Williams would have been the one that would have broken the record, not Barry Bonds. Here's the 1-1. It's in. Of course, McGuire broke the record, but the pace that Williams was on, Coors Light cold hard fact, he probably would have gotten there first. That bench staff, we talked about all the games.
Look at all that, 1,200 home runs.
All the home runs. 3 MVPs in there. Gibson, Baylor, and Trammell, all MVPs. Montero swings and fouls it back. Counts 2-2.
And a couple of former managers. Alan Trammell, we talked about his tenure with the Tigers. Of course, Don Baylor with the Rockies. So you have to be very, very secure in yourself to have guys like that on your bench staff. And Kirk Gibson is. And he has a long-time friendship with Trammell, too. I don't think Kirk Gibson's ever had a problem with being secure with himself.
No. He meets most challenges head on. 2-2. That breaking ball didn't come far enough, and it's out.
Might have just stayed off the plate. It did. The problem was he did get a call like that earlier. So a little inconsistency so far from Brian O'Nora.
Runner goes, and it's fouled at the plate. You know, about 3 weeks ago when we had the strike zone episode, which was a fun thing to do, my producer John Solser and I sat in the umpires room for about half an hour talking with umpires about strike zone. One of the things they've talked about is that over the last few years with the technology, the emphasis is on accuracy ahead of consistency. You know, and it's an interesting concept. Here's a 3-2. Runner on the move again. Swing and a miss. And the throw is in time. They got him. Wow. And that brings disbelief from Martin Prado. Adrian Johnson, the second base umpire. Matt Williams comes to the rescue. Gibson didn't come out, but a strike him out. Throw him out. still in discussion, and he's over at third base. He was talking with Joe Espada about that call. Here's a look at it. It looks like he's in there.
Yeah, the throw is high. And it looks like by the time Echeverria gets the tag kind of on his backside, that his extended foot was on the bag. So he probably had a little bit of an argument.
Marcell Ozuna, Justin Ruggiano, and Chris Coghlan now facing Wade Miley, who was dominant in the first inning. He struck out 2, got a fly ball out, and Ozuna rolls one to short. D.D. Gregorius. Look at that arm. Throws him out. And there's an out. It'll bring up Ruggiano. John Solster and I, our producer, we went and talked to umpires. We spent about a half an hour in the umpire room. And the thing they talked about, Tommy, is as far as strike zones go, they're trying to get away from, hey, as long as you're consistent, you're okay, because an umpire can consistently be calling a ball out of the strike zone a strike. What they're trying to do is, number one, accuracy first. Gregorius showing off again. Miley's got 2 quick outs. And the feeling is, if the umpires are able to succeed with accuracy, that will bring consistency.
That makes sense. That makes plenty of sense.
And so that's, as we've talked about with the FoxTrax technology that you at home get to see, the umpires have similar technology that's actually refined even more, that they are graded on. They will watch the DVD of the game that they call. And so they know on that breaking ball to Nolasco that was called a strike, they'll see that and say, okay, I missed that one. It was just out. And use that as future reference. Here's Coghlan now to face Miley.
Coghlan in there today, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of at-bats this year against lefties, but he's 3 for 8 against left-handers this year. I tell you, with Miley pitching, you can't look down. You're going to miss something.
And so you expect to see the Marlin hitters step out a little more often just to gather themselves and be set before the pitch. The other thing he does, Tommy, when he starts his windup, it doesn't take long before he releases the ball.
It's quick, yeah. It's not that slow, he's real easy, he's going to jump at you type delivery. Here it comes.
Coghlan a fly ball to the left, sending Kubel towards the line and in, and he makes the catch. It's a 7-pitch inning from Wade Miley. Brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. By AT&T UVerse TV. Check availability. 800-PICK-AT&T. Rethink possible. By Just for Men Auto Stop, the foolproof way to get rid of gray. and by Checkers. Feast on. In Miami, Marlins and Diamondbacks are scoreless. On to the third and on to the AT&T U-verse poll question. Oh, snakes. Twitter poll. What's your favorite snake movie? Is it Anaconda? Hashtag Anaconda movie. Is it Python? Hashtag Python movie. Would that be like Life of Brian or Holy Grail? Snakes on a Plane. Hashtag Snakes Plane movie.
I got my favorite of those three.
Over on Fox Sports Arizona, the Twitter poll is, what's your favorite fish movie? Jaws.
Jaws.
A river runs through it. That's a good one. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo.
Grumpy Old Men is the fourth choice. What, we couldn't come up with 4 snake movies? We only could come up with 3? One pitch. Pennington got jammed and pops it foul and out of play. Pennington, always known as a terrific infielder defensively. 28-year-old out of Texas A&M. Was with Oakland the last 5 seasons. So he's a good guy to have as your 5th infielder, a utility guy, especially in the absence of Willie Bloomquist. Bloomquist, a very versatile guy on the disabled list for Arizona. Good breaking ball. Nolasco strikes out Pennington.
Fun part about Ricky's breaking ball is a number of hitters have taken it and just said, tip your cap, hey, that's a good pitch. And that's exactly what Pennington did there. Ricky with 3 strikeouts. Got good stuff today. You know, on that poll question, it's probably not one of the highlights of John Voight's career. But Anaconda keeps you watching, you know.
Fastball misses outside. See, that's coming from a guy that spends 3 months out of the year ironing his shirts at 1 in the afternoon in a hotel room looking for something to watch other than Law and Order. Here's the 2-0 pitch. And Nolasco missing to Miley. Miley has a homer, and he's driven in 2. There they are again, your favorite snake movie.
Well, was Jennifer Lopez?
Now, this was reminiscent, remember, in his last start where Nolasco just absolutely lost all control and actually walked a couple with the bases loaded.
Even though Miley has a home run this year, it's his only hit. He's 1 for 13.
Fox Sports proud to partner with Johns Hopkins Medicine. This year's Fox Sports supports charities. Johns Hopkins is at the forefront of groundbreaking research into autoimmune disorders like multiple sclerosis and lupus. Join us in the fight against autoimmune diseases. Donate now by visiting hopkinsmedicine.org/Fox. I think you saw Ricky mouthing his displeasure at walking the pitcher. And now he faces Gerardo Parra and Didi Gregorius.
Yeah, now he's back to the top of the order.
Diamondbacks are now at the top of the National League West. Giants going down in Colorado last night. And the Snakes have a 1-game lead in the West. At 25-18, the Rockies are 2 back of Arizona. The Giants 1 back. Padres are 4 under at 5.5 back, and those Dodgers continue to bring up the basement at 17-24.
You know, the Rockies, again, another club we haven't seen yet. Another intriguing team. I mean, they have, and they always have had, the offense. And the whole key with them is, will they be able to sustain the offense on the road, away from Coors Field, and can they pitch well enough? But an intriguing team. They're playing pretty well this year.
1-2. Molly the runner at first.
The Diamondbacks head to Denver after this game today.
It's an odd road trip for a team from the West to come out east to play one series and then go back and play a series in the West. But the scheduling challenges with interleague every day make for some interesting trips, or at least trips that you haven't taken before as a team. Sometimes teams get into routines. You always go to San Francisco in June. You're always going to Arizona in August or whatever. Now you're gonna go places like Minnesota in April, like the Marlins did.
And then they go home from Denver and have that crazy homestand, the 3 games against San Diego, and the split doubleheader against Texas. One day. Texas is in town one day. And the Marlins go to Arizona in late June. How about mid-June?
Velasco misses, and the count's 3-2. Fastball command is what left Ricky in that last start in that what turned out to be disastrous inning. Gregorius waits on deck. Breaking ball in the air to left. Coughlin is there, and he makes the catch. And it appears right now that Ricky has much better command on the curveball than he does his fastball.
Yeah, and you give credit to Jeff Mathis for that, for calling the pitch. And speaking of the fastball command, Mathis told me the other day, remember he caught Jose Fernandez, and he said he was really impressed with the fastball command that the youngster had.
Variety of scouts today that we ran into were talking about Fernandez and what they've seen over his last couple of starts.
Talking about Tom Kohler last night.
Yes, there were a lot of guys that asked, why hasn't he been in the rotation sooner? But Kohler certainly earned a shot by pitching well out of the bullpen. Remember, he went down to New Orleans. It almost looked like he was going to make the team out of the spring. He went to New Orleans. 3 starts in New Orleans, he was terrific.
Yeah, everybody thought that he had made the club.
Gregorius has his second hit. Coughlin picks it up. And the Diamondbacks have runners at first and second. To Tom Kohler's credit, Tommy, he did not go down to New Orleans and hang his head and say, woe is me. He went down and pitched well, got called up, and it wasn't as a starter. There was a need in the bullpen, and so Kohler welcomed that and pitched well in that role. And when the Marlins needed a starter, they slid him into the rotation in Los Angeles. Pitched 5 innings and pitched well there, was stretched out his last start, went 6 innings, gave up 1 run, and I think the Marlins are encouraged and anxious to see his next few starts.
Well, it's the way you like to see a player handle things.
Paul Goldschmidt, dangerous hitter.
Boy, how dangerous, you ask? .441 this year with runners in scoring position.
And he laid waste to the Marlins in Game 1 of this series with 4 hits, 2 homers. Of course, before the Marlins got to Los Angeles, Goldschmidt totally wrecked the Dodgers. Every time we saw a highlight of that series, the Marlins were in San Diego on their way up. It was Goldschmidt hitting either a game-tying or a game-winning home run at Dodger Stadium. And you talked about the G's, Gregorius and Goldschmidt. They're 3 for 3 in this ball game. And as you pointed out, on the road, they've just been unstoppable.
Yeah, they're up to 407 now there have been some comparisons. I don't see it a whole lot in his stance. He's not quite spread and as down low as Jeff Bagwell, but there have been some Goldschmidt, Bagwell type comparisons. But you remember how spread out. He's pretty spread. But Bagwell used to look like he was sitting in a chair.
He did not check his swing, and Alasko with a sharp breaking ball gets the strikeout and gets out of the third inning. So Ricky Nolasco and Wade Miley right now in a scoreless duel.
Oh, Rich, thank you very much. And if this Marlins club in 2013 wants to look at anybody that's had success from the depths, they can go back to the team in 2006. Coming into this series, they actually had identical records, 11 and 31 after the first game of the series from the 06 team. But that team was able to regroup as the season went on. Their offense got very strong, and the pitching got a little bit better. And we look at the numbers from those years in 2006, same tough record. Obviously, the offense was a lot better than in 06, even early on, but also the pitching a lot better in 2013, including not only a lower earned run average by better than a run, but also a lot less errors from a defensive standpoint, blown saves, less walks. So the Marlins are hoping, guys, that there will be an offensive infusion with Lomo, with Stanton, maybe with a Yelich. Maybe some of these guys are improving records better. And there is some of the reason to be optimistic. Some young talent, offense getting better. The thing you hope is the pitching can stay pretty solid. Guys?
Nick Green sends one to deep center field. Gerardo Parra backs up and makes the catch. Well, there they are.
Now, those are guys you'd like to have in the lineup. Giancarlo, and that looks like Lomo.
It is. Morrison down for a presentation, cancer presentation before the ball game.
Starting his rehab assignment now in Jupiter,
yes,
in the Florida State League tomorrow. So those guys, yeah, you'd love to see in the lineup right now.
And obviously for Stanton to get back in the lineup, the rehab from his hamstring has to go well. Miley misses in. To have them both back at the same time would be nice. And as Craig mentioned, if Christian Yelich just continues to do what he's doing, his arrival is imminent. That one smacked hard but foul.
Yelich had one hit last night, and it was another triple.
Have you got a Christian Yelich app on your iPhone? Is that how you're?
I just like to check all the time. See the career average of Jeff Mathis. Certainly, you know that makes him a tremendous defensive catcher.
Into right, and that's going to get over the head of Parra. And Mathis has got a double. Parra looked like he was on cruise control and had it under control. And the ball just kept sailing, and that's a very good center fielder out there. Mathis got it over his head.
Yeah, I think this ball really fooled Gerardo Parra. A breaking ball out over the plate. And one of the highlights of Jeff Mathis's career was in 2009, the American League Championship Series, when he was with the Angels. It was against the Yankees. Mathis was 7 for 12 in that series with 5 doubles. So a double right here to get in scoring position with 1 out.
Now here's Ricky Nolasco with Echeverria on deck. Miley throws a strike. So the first hit off of Wade Miley comes from the number 8 hitter. Jeff Mathis' first hit as a Marlin. Miley dials it up to 90 miles an hour. Wade Miley against the Marlins last year was dominant. 2 starts, 2 wins, no earned runs, and just 5 hits in those 2 starts.
He was pretty dominant, Rich, against everybody. He led all rookie pitchers in winning percentage, wins, ERA, quality starts, strikeouts, innings pitched.
Nolasco goes down, and Miley gets his second out.
You had a really good observation between innings, and just thought of it again when he threw that fastball. Miley is like a Mark Burley with a little better stuff, a little harder fastball.
Yeah, he's got same body type, works just as quickly, but right now has more zip on the fastball. Maybe doesn't have as much touch on the changeup.
But he's only 26, and he's got a lot of career ahead of him.
Echeverria shoots 1 foul. Echeverria struck out in the first. First time through for Miley, 3 strikeouts. And the double by Mathis. Echeverria in the leadoff spot. Juan Pierre not in the lineup. And so Echeverria getting the call at the top of the order.
I just thought of something. We talked about how Miley last year finished second to Bryce Harper in the Rookie of the Year, Baseball Writers Rookie of the Year. He won the Sporting News National League Rookie of the Year, but the more I think about that, that's like winning the NIT. Nobody remembers.
You get a trip to New York out of it, and you're right. 1-2. And it's in. It counts 2 balls and 2 strikes. Swing and a miss. Just a power fastball. 94.
94. That's impressive.
He dialed it up, and he blows away Echeverria. Miami has just won. This is the last game of this series. In come the Phillies, and on Tuesday night in Game 2 of that series, pick up the Tuesday edition of the Miami Herald. Take advantage of the Miami Herald's half-price Tuesday offer. Get up to 8 half-price tickets in Legend Silver, Baseline Reserve, Bullpen Reserve, or Home Run Porch. Go to Marlins.com for more info.
Forget about all that. Jose Fernandez is pitching Tuesday night against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Thank you.
That should get you out here as it is.
Amen. Fun to watch him face the Utleys and the Howards and the Rollins in that Phillies lineup. Here's Jason Kubel. Cody Ross, Martin Prado will follow. Kubel turns on one and fouls it off.
The other thing about Jose Fernandez, remember the last time he pitched against the Philadelphia Phillies, it was a 2-0 win, and Jose gave up 1 hit in 7 innings.
Kubel led the Diamondbacks in home runs and in RBIs in his first season. The only other Diamondback to do that, Troy Gloss. Green, and he'll get there himself.
2 balls have been hit to Nick Green today, and they've been hit hard to his backhand, and he's made a couple of really nice plays.
And I think you can see he's much more comfortable with that glove and with the position after being called upon to do it last week for the very first time. He's had a chance to work a little more.
One hopper, he gets down, backhands, and then he goes, you know what, I got plenty of time. I can get to the bag. No sense flipping it to Ricky. I'll take it myself.
Cody Ross takes inside. Cholula hot sauce spotlight player for Taos, New Mexico. His father played football for the Lobos. Of course, he got that World Series ring and was the NLCS MVP. And Ross got clipped in the elbow by that fastball. And he always wanted to be a rodeo clown.
Yeah, we used to see Cody's dad during the season. See him occasionally in different cities. Not too many major leaguers from New Mexico.
No. But with that smile, can't you just see Cody as a rodeo clown?
Oh, he'd be awesome. I think a wise career move, though, in what he's doing.
I don't think they have arbitration in the clown union.
No 3-year contracts.
No. Martin Prado is up. It's a great segment with Craig, with Cody walking the concourse here at Marlins Park, talking about that 2006 team, talking about his son Hudson's photo up on the wall and how all the kids from that team used to get onto the field after every game, and it was a routine. Josh Johnson's kids, Cody's kids, they would run the bases. This is the photo that's up,
and that's the photo that attracted Marlins owner Jeffrey Loria. He said that's what baseball's all about, kids, and he saw that photo and wanted it in this new ballpark. That's quite an honor for Cody. And I would imagine, Rich, someday when little Hudson's about 20 years old, Cody may bring him to a game and say, hey, check things out. Check out this picture. I think he, too, gets in streaks, when he starts seeing the ball and hits it well.
Yeah, he probably has that little skip, too, after he gets a hold of one that Cody's very good at when he hits one that he knows is going out. Counts 1-1. Prado's at the plate. Nolasco got a little wild in the third. He walked the pitcher, Wade Miley. swing and a miss. Counts 1-2. There he is. Young Cody.
That's great.
Now that's the crack staff going back into the archives.
Yeah.
It's a good battle here between Nolasco and Prado, as Tommy pointed out. Prado has a ton of at-bats against Nolasco. Pop up, Green, back for it, and he gets it.
Well, I tell you what, that is not easy for a guy who's been a first baseman for a number of years. And especially for somebody who's more used to the other side of the diamond. Now all of a sudden, you're at first base, you have a totally different angle, and Nick Green went over and made a good play. That's a good job.
Now Montero, Arizona's catcher, who struck out back in the second. That's been Nolasco's best pitch today, is that sharp breaking ball. You can see Montero muttering to himself. He's still not real happy that that's a strike. It comes a long ways, and it's got to be a tough pitch to call if you're an umpire.
But as we've talked about the entire game, it's a good pitch that Ricky has working for him today.
There's the split at 81 miles an hour.
Hasn't used that a whole lot, but a good one.
See, that first pitch was a strike. Montero just won't give it up. He's still muttering to himself.
And when he gets back there with the gear, when the Diamondbacks take the field, he'll still be talking to Brian O'Nora.
Pulls that one on the ground. Dietrich on to first in time, and Nolasco settles down in the fourth. Ricky looking good. So is Wade Miley. Brought to you by Honda. Visit your Honda dealer for great lease and finance deals on fuel-efficient Hondas. And by Kaiser University, now offering degrees in sports management. Learn more at kaiseruniversity.edu. On a Kids Sunday, had the Little League Parade. And then Ricky Nolasco and Wade Miley have come out and thrown zeros up. Miley's been really impressive. The Marlins have just one hit, a Jeff Mathis double. Placido Polanco, Derek Dietrich, Marcelo Zuna in the fourth against Miley, who comes in at 3-2.
Yeah, Miley a little more than your crafty left-hander. as we saw a 94-mile-an-hour fastball to finish things off in the third inning.
So if 94 was his top end, fly ball down the right field line. Cody Ross on patrol makes the catch. What was the 88-mile-an-hour first pitch to Polanco? Was that just a batting practice fastball?
Yeah, it's not his changeup. The changeup's a little lighter than 88.
So he's adding and subtracting on the fastball.
Sure.
With a lot of success.
And again, we used to see Burley do that a lot.
Yeah. Marlins Live, presented by South Florida Honda Dealers. Live from our center field set. It's tomorrow at 6:30, getting you ready for the Phillies. Jeff Conine will try to eat a cheesesteak in 30 seconds tomorrow night in honor of the Phillies coming to town.
Phillies trailing Cincinnati 1-0 in the third inning right now.
Dietrich with a count, 1-1 strike. And Miley, boy, does he have great command with that fastball. Look at the location there of those two pitches.
You have three guesses as to how the Reds got their one run against the Phillies.
Three guesses. All right, Chu, Votto, or Phillips. Those are my three guesses.
I thought you'd get it. This guy's been hot.
Jay Bruce?
Yeah, Bruce with a home run. And Carlos Ruiz had to come out of that game with like a leg injury.
Phillies really missed him while he was serving that 25-game suspension. He was just back into their lineup. Here's Ozuna now. He bounced to short his first time up. And a strike from Miley. Miley was an all-star last year in his 16-win season. This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority of the Miami Marlins may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Marlins. Ozuna, chopper, D.D. Gregorius makes the play, and Wade Miley just keeps on keeping on. An auto stop foolproof stats. There you go, World Series expansion. Only 3 players to win multiple World Series with just expansion teams. You got Craig Counsell, of course. He was involved in both game-winning rallies in Game 7 for the Marlins. Of course, he scored that winning run, and he was involved in that rally to beat the Yankees. Devon White. Pennington takes a breaking ball for a strike. And of course, our good friend, the pride of one of the prides of Toms River, New Jersey, Al Leiter.
Todd Frazier's taken over a little bit, at least currently anyway.
Pennington, big swing and a miss as Nolasco works on Pennington. Wade Miley, and then Gerardo Parra in the fifth. The Diamondbacks, the first place Diamondbacks.
Both pitchers very similar in pitch count, also through 4 innings.
Ricky has had more base runners. He's given up 4 hits. Miley's given up just the 1. Nolasco has walked 1 and he's hit a batter. And a breaking ball finishes off Pennington. If you're watching this telecast from home, get on the internet, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, keep you up to date with all the Marlins and other Florida sports teams. And there's how to do it.
One of the biggest differences, Rich, in Ricky Nolasco in his starts this year, this is 10th start of the year, compared to last year. Ricky's strikeout total was down last year, just 125 in 191 innings. He's been striking out hitters at a better rate this year. Of course, he had that 9 strikeout game in San Diego, and he already has 5 here today.
Remember, he walked Miley in the 3rd. He's ahead of him here at 1 and 2.
And I think a lot of that obviously has to do with the command of that fastball, but also the snap of his breaking pitches. Like that.
Yeah. Speaking of snaps, that's 2 snaps. You got Pennington, and he gets Miley on a gorgeous breaking ball.
Boy, that's a beauty. That's great.
You love to hear scouts talk about Nolasco when they talk about spinning the ball, and you hear it often saying he spins it as well as anybody in the big league.
Yes, he does.
And that's scout speak for throwing a curveball or a slider. And that was one of the things that the scouts that we talked to before the ballgame tonight mentioned about Tom Kohler, is how sharp and powerful his slider was last night. A power slider, they said. Had a great split running the outside corner.
He's broken that out a few times too, and every time he has, it's been a good one.
Oh, 2 coming. And Parra swings and misses. Mathis smothers it. Parra says he fouled it. And the home plate umpire, Brian Honora, isn't buying it. And Nolasco strikes out the side in the 5th, halfway through and scoreless. real nice groove, striking out the side in the top of the 5th. The issue right now for Miami, getting some runs. Wade Miley has been just as dominant. Justin Ruggiano, a little tapper. Miley deflects it. Pennington adjusts and makes the play. And a nice play by Pennington for the first out of the 5th. Let's check in with Craig Minervini.
Rich, thank you very much. Look at this group. I hope you get a wide shot here. This is Anna Sanchez, the honorary Batgirl. She's got a team of family and friends all supporting her. Named Marlins honorary Batgirl. She's did a great, courageous job battling breast cancer. And good for you. And how about this support? What does this mean to you?
It means everything. It means the world to me. It's my family, friends, co-workers supporting me the last 4 years, every day, and it's been great. We do the walks together. They come down from Orlando, New York, whatever it is. They're here to support me.
I like this sign here. Look at this. This is Team Analicious. Team Analicious is here.
Yes, that's my team, Analicious. My daughter started the team for me 4 years ago.
You must be proud of your mother.
Very proud of her and everything that she's accomplished.
Hey, you threw out the first pitch today.
Yes, it was exciting. I think I did pretty good. I'm not too sure. I think I did good. I think
so. Just some awareness. Baseball has been teaming up, Susan G. Komen, over the last few Mother's Days with the pink bats. Just a tip for people out there watching.
First thing, very important. Check yourself every year. Go to your mammogram. Do everything. It's so important to get it the first time you can, and just be aggressive with the treatment and go for it. It's hard, but do it.
Anything you want to say to your group here?
I love you all. Thank you for your support. You don't know what it means to me. I love you all. Thank you.
Congratulations. Rich, Tommy.
All right, good stuff there, Craig, for sure.
That's very nice.
Chris Coughlin doubling to the wall. And the Marlins have a runner in scoring position. Nick Green is up, and then there's Jeff Mathis. And Miley has given up 2 hits, and they've both been hit out almost in the same spot. Both have been doubles to right center field.
Yeah, that ball that Coughlin hit, he crushed. He hit that very well. Chris now 4 for 10 on the year against left-handed pitching.
Oh-2, and it's up, and it's out. Well, scoring runs for the Fish from day one has been troubling. A point of demarcation for the Marlins was that 14-run ball game in Philly, and the 1-2 pop foul, and he got it. Reaching in was Goldschmidt. No, he didn't. I thought Goldschmidt had it. He snapped his glove out like he had it, and it ends up with a fan. Oh, look at that. That's a gorgeous catch.
Now, if Fan did that and came over the railing the other direction in the field of play, then it could be interference. But he's reaching into Fan territory right there.
Yeah, that's fair game. That one bounces to the screen, and Coughlin ends up at third base. What a sequence of events. That looked like the second out of the inning, but the Fan snatched it from Goldschmidt. Now Miley sends one to the screen. So Miami, in turn, has a runner 90 feet away. And Green has a 2-2 count. That's a wild pitch, and it took a crazy bounce over Montero.
Saw how Montero tried to shift over and just block it.
Infield's in. And he struck him out. Miley with a sharp breaking ball.
You know, the tough part about that is that at the time, I mean, the wild pitch earlier in the count, now you have a little better opportunity as a hitter. The wild pitch came, and it was a 2-2 pitch to Green, and you give Miley credit. He made a good pitch on that 2-2 pitch.
That Sunday in Philly, the Marlins scored 14 runs, and everybody felt like, okay, now they're over this hurdle. Now they can score runs. Now the offense will get going. But since that explosion, the Marlins have scored just 17 runs in 11 games since.
11 and a half games now.
Thanks.
But with a man on third.
Yeah, you're right. There's the total runs scored. Coughlin waiting at third.
Probably
Mathis swings and misses.
Probably, Rich, the biggest difference when we see that graphic of the 06 team and at this point in time and this year's. Yes, this year's pitching has been about a run better in ERA, but the 06 team was about 2 runs better offensively a game.
Mathis fouled it at the plate. The other big difference is in the makeup of the team. That 06 team was extremely young. But a lot of those youngsters, prospects, guys that would blossom. Willingham, Ugla, Hanley Ramirez, Mike Jacobs, Cody Ross would be added from the Reds. A very young pitching staff as well. Here's the 1-2. Mathis lines it, and Goldschmidt spears it. And the Marlins are still scoreless. Well, Coughlin bounced one off the wall. Mathis hit a screaming liner, and Wade Miley is still shutting down the fish. Scoreless ball game here in Miami. This. I think we should just let him go for the whole inning.
Hey, wait. Yo escucho algo aquí. Rich Waltz, what's up?
We were going to let you guys go. Maybe you could get a run, go for a whole inning, wait till the Marlins bat again.
Hey, whatever spurs some hitting activity, huh?
The 2 balls hit well in that inning, Chris Coughlin and Jeff Mathis. Now, the pick to click. Cookie, you went with Ricky Nolasco.
Hey, wait a minute. You know, he had him on a second base.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
and
he did.
He could have had a base hit.
And
we haven't had no hits.
I know. You would have picked up 2 points. You were in a position to be in sitting pretty.
There you are. See, don't give up on those guys. You know, you got to go ahead and stick with them. I tried to pick up Tino Martinez, but they wouldn't let me.
A liner down the right field line. It's foul. Actually, we met Tino Martinez's brother yesterday, who looked like Tino Martinez had been in the weight room for a good solid year.
You didn't have to look long to tell it was his brother. That's for sure.
Is that right?
You got to meet his brother.
They're not twins, so
no. And his brother's family, very nice
great.
family, and he's got some
great people.
Tino's got some baseball playing nephews as well.
One of the finest gentlemen you ever want to meet is him.
It's fun to stand around the batting cage, Cookie, and talk to him, isn't it?
Yes, sir, it is. And he knows exactly what he's talking about, and he expresses a lot of patience with these young kids, and that's the way to do it, to keep on working with them and trying to make them better, trying to understand the game better. And that's something that's going to take just a little bit of time. You know, by experience is how you're going to get better. And listening to guys like Tino, I think that you'll have a good chance to improve.
Ball in right field. Ozuna there to make the catch. All right, guys, have a good show.
Thanks, guys.
Tommy.
You too.
Okay.
Richie.
Ricky Nolasco gets it out. Got the Phillies in here tomorrow. Starts at 6:30 with Marlins Live. Gregorius, actually getting Gregorius out for Nolasco, as you saw his numbers against him, an accomplishment. Now he's got Goldschmidt and Kubel to face. Goldschmidt is singled and struck out. Fastball from Nolasco up.
I think the other thing we're talking about, Ricky, maybe more strikeouts, a better ratio this year. I think his fastball consistently has been a little bit harder. A little more zip on that. And you add that with the sharp breaking ball. That's why the strikeout rate's a little better.
7 strikeouts, a walk, a hit batter. Wade Miley, 6 strikeouts, no walks. Goldschmidt fouls it back and the count's 2-2. Paul Goldschmidt, the anchor of this Diamondback ball club right now as far as power until Aaron Hill gets back. Hill last year 26 homers, 44 doubles. You'll see him at second base. Then the Diamondbacks have to figure out where to put Prado, but as we pointed out, with Chavez at third, you're going to see Prado at third. You'll see Prado at left. You'll see Prado in the lineup.
And they're going to have to do that to keep Chavez healthy, keep him swinging a good bat.
Nolasco's 3-2. Slow roller, Echeverria. And there are 2 outs here in the 6th inning.
Another thing, a couple of the scouts that we talked to have told us about this series, it's a treat for them to watch the shortstop play between Echeverria and Gregorius.
Here comes Kubel. Jason Kubel, one of the players who has hit for the cycle in the majors, although his cycle included a grand slam.
That's a good cycle.
And that was while he was with the Twins. He hits that one in the air to right. Ozuna eyes it and makes the catch, and Nolasco is rolling as Ricky has set down 8 straight in a scoreless duel with Wade Miley. This freeze cam is brought to you by Frostbrewed Coors Light. This was the play at second with Martin Prado. feeling like he was safe. But Adrian Johnson saying, I'm going to call you out.
Did you see him? You kidding me? That's the first thing he said.
And Prado knows he's a second baseman, shortstop, third baseman.
Hey, if he's at second or if he's at short, he'd like to get that call too.
That's why he didn't argue to the point of getting tossed or getting close to getting tossed.
Here's Cookie's guy at the plate now.
That's right. Cookie's picked to click. You know what? I think the way Ricky has pitched, Cookie deserves like 3 or 4 points in that pull.
Yes. Last 14 innings for Marlins pitching now. They've given up just 7 hits and no runs and 14 strikeouts.
Well, from day one for the Marlins, it's not been about pitching. Miami's ERA as a team is 4.15. Now, that's not lighting the world on fire, but it's also not a disaster. Velasco, a fly ball out. Miley has given up just 2 doubles, and that's it. He hasn't walked anybody. He hasn't hit anybody. Chris Coughlin, a 1-out double in the 5th. Jeff Mathis, a 1-out double in the 3rd. Echeverria has struck out twice.
Miley has lowered his ERA to 3.38. Ricky's has lowered his into the 3s.
2-1. Well, Miley's ERA got up into the upper 3s because of his last outing against Atlanta. He gave up 8 runs to the Braves in 5 innings.
Yeah, 10-1 loss.
Like an alien came and inhabited his body for that start. But you know, every quality starter has one of those games every year, maybe even a couple of times, where you go out, you just don't have it, you give up 6, 7, and in his case, 8 runs.
Was it the other night? Justin Verlander in that outing he had against Texas and Yu Darvish, which was billed as a tremendous pitching matchup. Darvish gave up 4 runs. Verlander was out of there in 3 or 4 innings. He gave up 6 or 7, maybe more.
Well, here's a great case in point. The ball game going on right now in Cleveland. The Indians are leading 6-0, and it's the top of the 5th. Felix Hernandez is pitching for Seattle, so even King Felix has given up 6 runs. That's up the middle into center field, and Echeverria's got himself a base hit. Now the Marlins have some speed out there, and their number 2 hitter, Placido Polanco, coming up. Marlins and Phillies end the series on Wednesday. It's a night game on the 22nd. Kids 12 and under eat free on Wednesday nights at Marlins Park. All kids in attendance will get a voucher for a free KM Beef Frank, a bag of Frito-Lay chips, and a small Pepsi or Aquafina water. Go to marlins.com now. Miley trying to pick off Echeverria, and he caught Echeverria in between, going in standing or going in diving, and he kind of went in crouching.
Yeah, Verlander the other night, 2 2/3 innings, gave up 6 hits and 8 runs. So, yeah, it happens to the best.
Polanco's hit the ball in the air twice for outs. As expected, Miley quick to the plate. He doesn't take time between pitches, and he doesn't take a whole lot of time once he starts his motion.
Depending on how the count goes, and this is a key pitch right here, you're probably not going to send Echeverria in a hit-and-run situation on an 0-1 pitch. But if it gets to 1-1, you never know. Now you can't do it 0-2. The reason I say that, you had a guy up there with tremendous back control, and as you mentioned, a little speed at first base in Echeverria. But the count is taking that play out of play.
Ball in the dirt. Etch thought about it, and that shows you how good Montero is.
He does a good job back there defensively.
Made sure that that ball stayed somewhat in front of him and kept Echeverria at first base. Polanco pulls it foul. Miami and Arizona finishing a 3-game series. Wade Miley, Ricky Nolasco, both have been outstanding in this one. The Marlins searching for just even one run. Last night they were shut out on a complete game 3-hitter by Brandon McCarthy. They got just 2 runs in the first game of this series against Trevor Cahill and reliever Will Harris. Mike Redmond looking at the count. Well, now it's 2-2, so Echeverria's had enough time to watch Miley, who doesn't seem to either have the A move or have shown the A move yet.
But he's quick to the plate, so that kind of equalizes it. For the Marlins, just trying to get a couple of base runners. The Marlins have not had multiple base runners in an inning since the first inning last night.
Miley again. Now the count's 3-2.
Now he'll be running, but you can't get picked off. So you expect Echeverria not to get a good jump because you don't want to get picked off here. You just want to be on the move. And if you're Polanco, pressure's on to make contact.
Polanco, always one of the toughest to strike out in baseball. There's the A move.
That was a little different move, yeah. This one a little higher leg kick. But when he goes to the plate, though, he doesn't lift it that high.
Echeverria not running, and Polanco hits it to left. Kubel is back, and he makes the catch. So 3 fly ball outs from Polanco. And here comes Dietrich. It's been a tough day for Dietrich. Miley has struck him out twice.
Dietrich now, and we saw it with Marcell Ozuna, who's still working on that adjustment period. Dietrich going through that adjustment period now.
The league has had a chance to see him.
Scouting reports have been out there.
Pitching coaches and starting pitchers been able to watch video. And a lot of times what they'll look for is an individual pitcher will search for a pitcher that is similar to him. A guy that's, in Miley's case, he'll look for lefties and how lefties attack Dietrich. And the count's 0-2. The same pitch. He's gone after both of them. And that's the real tough spot that the Marlins are in right now, is they've got Dietrich in the 3 spot and Ozuna in the 4 spot, and together they've played all of 32 major league games. to first.
That's a great point. It's very easy to look at this club and say, well, they're not scoring runs, they're not driving in runs. You throw a blanket over everything, but part of it is what you said. You've got inexperience in the productive part of the order, 3 and 4 spots. And then some of your experienced guys, like Polanco, Juan Pierre, even a Greg Dobbs, haven't been productive. So you add all that together, and it just says no runs, not too many runs.
We were talking about that the other night. The hope is that when Stanton and Morrison get back, and hopefully that's only in a couple of weeks, then everybody slides back into other roles. 1-2 breaking ball. Dietrich pulls it foul.
Perfect example. In a better time, maybe the next time the Marlins face the Diamondbacks, Miley could get himself in this situation. He'd be facing Stanton and Morrison, or Morrison Stanton, depending on where they're hitting in the order.
1-2. Dietrich pulls it into right field. The base hit. Echeverria around second, on his way to third. Well, you see a young hitter adjusting and battling. You remember that great at bat that Dietrich had against Aroldis Chapman, who was blowing 101 and 102.
Oh, you know it's there, and that's what's fun about watching Derek Dietrich. The battle, the concentration, the adjustments, and he had a good pitch from Miley. Found that hole on the right side, and then with the speed, Echeverria was able to get to third. And just got out of the way of the ball.
And now Miami puts itself maybe in a little better matchup spot, because you got the right-handed hitting Ozuna against Miley. Ozuna has bounced to short twice.
The downside to this whole situation, they're 2 out. That's the only downside, but some good ABs. And multiple runners on base.
You're right, and that hasn't happened for, what, about 13, 14 innings. Ozuna takes in. Echeverria with a single. Dietrich across the diamond with a single. Ozuna fouls it over the screen. Now, in an effort to generate runs, the crack staff is on the board. Derek Dietrich's base hit.
This is a big at bat for you.
It is, because I can essentially seal the deal here with a big hit. You get a point for a hit, a point for a total base, so a double gets you 2. You get a point for an RBI. See where pitch number 3 missed. He's in a good hitter's count now at 2-1. Ozuna left field. That's deep. Kubel looking up. It bangs off the wall. Scoring is Echeverria. Here comes Dietrich. He's going to score. Pick 2, click.
2 rookies, 2 young guys, not a whole lot of experience with terrific at-bats. It got started with Echeverria. We'll throw in 3 guys. Dietrich with a great at-bat, and Ozuna caps it off with a shot off the wall in left center.
Charles Nagy, the pitching coach for the Diamondbacks, is out. Marcell Ozuna, boy, a 2-1 fastball, and he ripped it. That's off the top of the wall. And look at Dietrich go.
Well, that's a great sequence. All 3 of those young guys.
Now Ruggiano. He's 0 for 2. Miley misses down low.
That's the first lead the Marlins have had in this series. And how do you think Ricky Nolasco feels right now?
Ball and a strike. Nolasco.
Ricky doesn't know how to feel. 2-run lead.
Another 2-1 count. Ozuna hit a 2-1 pitch off the top of the wall and left for a 2-run double. Ruggiano went after the same type pitch. Fouls it off. So Miami has runs. 2 of them. 31 pitches for Wade Miley. And remember, he had Derek Dietrich 0-2. Two balls, 2 strikes. Miami tried to snap a 7-game losing streak. Brad Ziegler. Two. 3-2.
The Marlins have 5 hits. 3 of those 5 hits doubles, one of them by Chris Coghlan.
Ruggiano takes down low. And here comes Coghlan with runners first and second.
I think once Miley got to that 3-ball count, he wasn't all concerned about Ruggiano with first base open. He decided to go after the left-hander.
Coghlan's had some good swings against him, including that double. You can see he's approaching 100 pitches. And a breaking ball misses up. Coghlan getting the start in left field. And you would think that the way he has swung the bat this last week, he'll be getting more starts, whether in center or left. Roller up the middle. Pennington flips. Gregorius is there. Inning is over. But Miami strikes for 2 runs. Marcell Ozuna, the 22-year-old, comes through. Finally, some runs for the Fish, and it was the youngsters that teamed up to do it. 24-year-old Adeiny Echeverria with a single, 23-year-old Derek Dietrich with a 2-out hit, and then 22-year-old Marcelo Ozuna with a 2-run double. Into the 7th, and now it's on the shoulders of Ricky Nolasco, and he'll try to keep the run going. He's retired 8 in a row. He gets Cody Ross, Martin Prado, and Miguel Montero. Rich Waltz, Tommy Hutton, Greg Minervini, Jeff Conine will be by for Marlins Live postgame. John Sulcer's our producer, Jim Hawley our director, Ken Lee our graphics coordinator. Cody Ross, a single, been hit by a pitch. And Nolasco gets a strike at the knees.
Don't have to tell you the importance of an inning like this, especially since Ricky just got himself a 2-run lead.
Diamondbacks had opportunities. They had a couple of hits in the first inning. A base running blunder by Didi Gregorius didn't help him out. Ross launches one into the corner and right. And Ozuna is there. Makes the catch. 1 out. Go to any Wednesday Marlins game. Save up to 60% with the Chevron Crazy Eights ticket offer. Fill up at a participating Chevron to get $8 home run porch or $18 home plate box tickets. Visit your local Chevron or Marlins.com Chevron for details. Restrictions apply. Strike to Prado. Arizona has just the 4 hits, and they've all been singles. And from Prado on down, a lot of offers in the lineup. They are delayed in Atlanta, the Dodgers and the Braves. That's McGill and Minor scheduled to pitch in that one. Mike Minor's actually having a very nice season of 5-2 with a 2.75 ERA.
Braves got a nice start from Chris Medlin last night. Went 7 innings, got a no decision. And they were picked up by Evan Gattis, who hit a pinch hit 2-run homer for the game winner.
Alonso Blanco. The legend continues. Echeverria on to first. And so Ricky has now retired 10 straight. And he gets Miguel Montero.
And has done what you wanted to see. He's come out, gotten the first 2 outs. Look at the pitch counts, 5th, 6th, and this inning so far.
Montero is 0 for 2. Of course, the Diamondbacks are interested in the Giants and the Rockies in a passing way. I don't think anybody really focuses on other scores at this point of the season. The fact that the Diamondbacks have caught the Giants and passed the Giants in the standings, though, is of note. And the Rockies would like to do the same. The Rockies are 23-20. They can catch the Giants if they beat them this afternoon. The Giants are 24-19. To the last 6 games for Montero, it's been a miserable season so far. For a guy that had a very nice year and got a very nice contract off of last year. One and 2. Montero, we talked about it, a .391 on base percentage. That's Chooch-like. That's Carlos Ruiz type numbers. That was last year. And a swing and a miss. And
terrific job.
Has mowed down 11 straight. Ricky's got a 2-run lead. 7th inning stretch in Miami this afternoon. The Marlins lead the Diamondbacks 2-0.
Well, things were cruising along, a terrific pitching matchup. Ricky Nolasco picking up strikeouts. He has 7 in the ball game. And Wade Miley was just as efficient. He was getting strikeouts with fastballs and some breaking balls. Trouble came for Miley, though, in the 6th inning. After a couple of singles by Echeverria and Dietrich, a fastball found the wall in left center off the bat of Marcell Ozuna. And just like that, the Marlins took a 2-0 lead. And the key, Ricky came back in the top half of the next inning and had a nice 1-2-3 inning to keep it 2-zip.
That brought to you by Auto Nation. 2-0 Miami. Our poll question: AT&T U-verse. And
see, that gives us an idea where our fans are at.
Hashtag Python movie is winning right now. I'm curious to know how, on the Fox Sports Arizona side, what's the favorite fish movie? What's winning over on the other side? And was a fish called Wanda involved?
Still a little disappointed in the lack of effort for Anaconda, though. Ricky focused. He wants to finish this thing. He's got 2 more innings.
We're being told Finding Nemo is ahead at the 3/4 pole. Well, Brad Ziegler, with a unique delivery, arrives, and he will pitch near the bottom of the 7th inning. Wade Miley goes 6th. Boy, the way Wade Miley was going, it looked like he would go 7, 8, or 9, especially having watched Brandon McCarthy do just that. McCarthy threw a complete game, 3-hit shutout, and he threw 99 pitches last night. You just don't see that.
Remember, the last out of the game, though, was an absolute rocket hit by Ozuna to short. You can say all you want about the pitches that Ziegler throws. He'll frisbee the breaking ball and fastball, but with Ziegler, it's all about delivery.
Slings that up there, and Green swings and misses. Jeff Mathis, and then Nolasco coming up.
There it is. Hides the ball, high leg kick, and then slings it. And then frisbees it.
That's Jeff Nelson-like frisbee action there. Of course, Ziegler really emerged after a long stretch in the minor leagues with Oakland in 2008. And has spent the last 3 seasons with Arizona. This is a guy whose major league career ERA is below 2.50. Look
at that.
That's impressive stuff. 2.46. Mathis bounces to third, and Prado whips it across. Jeff Mathis is out. Though I think Mathis, who has doubled in this ball game, his value in this ball game has to be measured in what he's done behind the plate with Ricky Nolasco.
Well, he doubled. He also hit a line drive to first, yes, and he's handled 7 shutout innings so far from Ricky.
And here is Ricky Nolasco. I would think for a pitcher like Nolasco, who doesn't face a lot of pitching,
this isn't real comfortable.
No, I mean, it's like you just don't even imagine seeing something like this.
You just want to get out there and pitch the 8th.
And I think Ricky, it shows. It was tipped, ball in the dirt.
Ricky's heart and backside are not in this AB.
No. One and two. Lasco sprays one out towards second. Pennington gets a good hop, flips on over to first. And the Marlins are done in the seventh. The Lasco back to work in the eighth. 2-0 Miami. At Bat is the #1 source for live baseball everywhere you go. Just ask Tommy Hutton. Everywhere he goes, on his iPhone, on his iPad, if he had an Android or a BlackBerry 10. At Bat delivers Marlins baseball with live audio, pitch tracking, stats, news, highlights, and more. Text At Bat to 31826 or go to marlins.com for details. It's a Justin Ruggiano DB318A model. That is Ricky Nolasco, who is right now sitting on a 2-0 lead. The bottom of the Diamondback order is in line here. Cliff Pennington, pitcher spot, a very large individual on deck, looks like an Eric Hinsky sighting. And then you got top of the order, Gerardo Parra. Pennington. That one line foul. So Nolasco, 11 in a row he has set down. Last base hit was in the third, and that was Didi Gregorius, who has 2 of the 4 hits, and they've all been singles.
Ricky's made some great pitches to Pennington.
He has struck him out twice. Looked like a split at 82. Nearing 100 pitches. Josh Colementor, Mr. Over the Top, getting ready in the Arizona pen. He has struck Pennington out 3 times. Nolasco 9 strikeouts. Let's check in with Craig Minervini.
Well, someone had to come out here and talk about high heels in left field. Jasenia, the great bartender here. By the way, what's the top drink going today here at the Cleveland?
Well, we have a lot of the Clevelander Coladas, pretty popular Miami Vices.
What's in the Miami Vice?
It's half the Colada and half the Rum Runner.
Right, let's talk about the event.
Okay.
Talk about Miami Vice another time. May 22nd, Wednesday, is high heels in left field, right here.
Yeah, ladies, come on down with your stilettos. The entry includes a free drink and some free food on us and a ticket to the game. We want to see you looking your best.
$30. It's a nice deal.
Yep.
Again, $30. First 50 women who arrive will receive exclusive giveaways. I believe a Marlin player will have a Q&A session.
Yeah.
What would you ask if there was a Marlin player? What baseball fact would you want to know?
What's that?
What would you want to know if a baseball Marlin came in here? What fact about the game? Anything?
I'd just like to know where they do most of their training.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. High heels in left field.
High heels in left
Wednesday
field.
night?
And partial proceeds are going to go to the Marlins Foundation, so it's for a good cause. So come on down with your pumps. High heels in left field.
Great chance for female baseball fans to have a lot of fun here at the Clevelander. And, of course, go out and order a drink when you're here.
We have a pool here, so if you want to get in those bikinis, too, come on in.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Gisette.
No problem. Thank you.
High heels in left field, gentlemen.
All right, admit it, Craig, before you did the interview,
Yes.
you checked your mobile device to see if you are working that night, right?
Well, I did actually check, and I was going to buy a ticket, but...
Are you working that night?
Yes, we will be here.
No, will you be there?
Well, if I have to stop by and do a story, of course. This is a very good story for
If
for
you
ladies.
have to.
If
Yeah,
I have to
if
stop
you have
by,
to.
and I know you guys have already punched your ticket for the big event in July, right?
That's right.
And you'll be right here, too.
Yeah, the 29th. We'll
All
be
right.
out there for the fantasy auction. You're right. Eric Hinsky is up, and Hinsky takes a breaking ball outside.
We will not be in our high heels, though.
Unless there's someone bids on it, then it's all for the kids. Ricky Nolasco has been super here. He's got a 2-0 lead. He's got an out in the 8th. Hinsky, the veteran lefty bat, and a swing and a miss. Nolasco has struck out 10.
Boy, ever since the first inning, and I think we commented on it at the time, he's had the snapper working. Good curveball. Drops a beauty to a really good hitter in Eric Hinsky. For Ricky, remember he had 9 strikeouts in that ball game in San Diego, so a season high 10 strikeouts this afternoon.
He's retired 13 in a row. He's got the top of the order now. One of the hotter Diamondbacks, Gerardo Parra. He has struck him out twice. And Nolasco a strike there. Fun to watch Nolasco with Mathis. There's not a whole lot of hesitation. You don't see Ricky shaking off pitches. He's right at him.
Still 93 miles an hour with that last fastball.
Oh, 2. Got him. Ricky Nolasco. 11 strikeouts. And the Marlins will head to the bottom of the 8th with a 2-0 lead. retired 14 in a row. He struck out 11, and this was him between innings. Puts the coat on. He doesn't want to talk to anybody or see anybody. He doesn't want anyone to come up and say, hey, great job. You're done for the day. Mike Redmond actually comes up, and it looks like Redmond says, you're pitching the ninth.
You good? Yeah, I'm good. You got the ninth. That's what Ricky wants, too. He wants to finish this thing off himself. He wants to go old school on us.
Well, the youngsters delivered a couple runs, and the veteran Ricky Nolasco has held the lead. And so here, in the bottom of the 8th, Echeverria, Polanco, and Dietrich against Josh Colmenter. The bunt is popped up and then bobbled and then caught by Colmenter after it popped out of the glove of Montero. How about that? They worked on that in spring training.
That was one of their special PFP drills. Don't know if I've seen this before. There's the pop-up. That's heads up on both parts. Montero's and certainly Colmenter.
Polanco takes down low. Colmenter, and we mentioned him the other night with his delivery, that real over-the-top.
You talk about two unusual deliveries. This is another reason the Diamondbacks have a pretty good bullpen. Talk about two unusual deliveries. We saw Ziegler and where he throws from. And now Colmenter, who has that just jerky, funky, over the top, has a good changeup. He has an unusual delivery.
And you just don't see release points from that spot as a hitter. That is strike 3 called. Polanco caught looking. And so Colmenter has come out. And he's retired the first 2 that he's faced here in the 8th. Here comes Derek Dietrich. Now, for Nolasco to finish this thing, Tommy, he's got to get the heart of the order out for the Diamondbacks. You've got Didi Gregorius, Paul Goldschmidt, Jason Kubel, and if anybody reaches, Cody Ross.
Ricky wouldn't want it any other way. He has 9 career complete games, 4 career shutouts. His last shutout was last year in September against the Nationals.
Dietrich turns on one, and look what Goldschmidt found. Steps on the bag. On to the 9th. Nolasco will try to finish the deal. There's the line. 11 strikeouts. Just a walk. He's hit a batter. The 4 hits are all singles. The last hit was D.D. Gregorius in the 3rd inning. Gregorius has 2 of the 4 hits. All those hits have been singles. And it's Gregorius who leads off in the 9th with Paul Goldschmidt and Jason Kubel to follow. And Nolasco has retired 14 in a row. Mike Dunn, Steve Cishek are ready in the bullpen. And Ricky misses up. See the pitch count there at 108. And we'll see if he can finish.
Ricky's high in pitches this year was back in April against Washington in 6 innings, 109 pitches. So he's at that right now.
Liner to right. Ozuna, and it's by him, and it goes to the wall. And Gregorius is around first, and he pulls in at second. 3 hits for Gregorius, and only 5 for the entire game for the Diamondbacks. Chuck Hernandez on the phone.
Ricky's been burying that splitter, the changeup, all afternoon. He's gotten Parra to chase it a couple of times. That one stayed straight and was right in the middle of the strike zone for Gregorius.
Mike Redmond is coming out. And so Nolasco will not face Goldschmidt, and you can see the reasoning here by Redmond. Goldschmidt, one of the hotter hitters in baseball, with 12 homers, including 2 in this series, and with 1 swing of the bat, he could tie the game. Here comes Nolasco.
Great job today by Ricky Nolasco.
Marlins go to the bullpen. Strikeouts. He had retired 14 in a row before the Gregorius double. Mike Redmond goes to Steve Cishek. And here is Cishek with Paul Goldschmidt, Jason Kubel, Cody Ross. Remember, Eric Chavez is on that bench, and he's hot too.
There's another thing of note. The Diamondbacks are the only major league team this year that has not been shut out. And the Marlins trying to do that today.
Cishek last night pitched an inning of scoreless relief with a strikeout. You talked about it last night, Tommy. For Cishek, it's been a tough year. And one of the reasons is he's playing for a club that hasn't delivered many save opportunities. His work load has been very uneven in terms of when he works, how much he works. Steve was a guy last year that usually pitched better when he'd been used a lot.
Yeah, there really has been no consistency in his appearances.
And that's not anyone's fault. It's just the natural rhythm of being a closer on a team that has won 11 games, 11 of their first 43 games. Goldschmidt coiled up the middle, and Dietrich sliding stop, throw to first, and he got him! Derek Dietrich!
Wow! Well, that ball was ticketed for center field. Dietrich out of nowhere, a little sliding pick. He has shown us, Rich, he can go to his left. Now he can go to his right, up the middle. Nice stretch over there, too, by Nick Green.
Former shortstop at Georgia Tech, second-round pick by the Rays. Dietrich gets Goldschmidt. Gregorius is 90 feet away. Cishek protecting a 2-run lead. And here is Kubel.
The bottom line is, would you like the shutout? Yes. But you can't worry about Gregorius at third. You need to get a couple of outs here, and that's it. But here's the key for Cishek, because lefties have hit close to 330 against him.
And Kubel had the big year last year. A career year last year with 30 home runs. Limited time this year, he's hit 3.
The only 2 home runs that Cishek has allowed have been to lefties.
One and 2. There are your splits. Fastball up, pops out of Mathis's glove, but Gregorius hangs at third.
This is a perfect example of our conversations we've had about Cishek needing that pitch to equalize a lefty, to change up, something like that. But this is a perfect example of a closer. He can't work on that pitch here. He doesn't want to get beat with a third pitch.
And as a closer, you rarely have opportunities for side session. Nolasco hoping that Cishek can deliver the win. 11 strikeouts for Nolasco. In the air, left field, and deep. Coughlin, shy of the track, makes the catch. Gregorius tags, and he scores. But there are 2 outs here in the 9th. Cody Ross was scheduled. Eric Chavez, though, will pinch hit. Chavez, who hit a home run in Game 1, has 5 home runs already this season. In the absence of Aaron Hill, he's provided some nice pop for Kirk Gibson. Mike Redmond and Miami trying to snap a 7-game losing streak. Ricky Nolasco has done his part. He was magnificent. Want to know to the veteran, one of his home runs this year, a pinch hit job. Off of Dietrich's glove into right center. Ruggiano picks it up, and the Diamondbacks are still alive.
And again, the lefties with good swings off Cishek. Kubel with the long sac fly, and Chavez with that base hit.
Diamondbacks will run for Chavez. A.J. Pollock into the ball game. Pollock adds speed. And you've got Martin Prado coming to the plate. And Dietrich is shaken up.
You know, that diving attempt, he's had a couple of plays like that. That one he couldn't get to.
There wasn't anything apparent just from that first glance. The ball looked like it may have hit him in the wrist.
Could have come down hard on the wrist.
Dietrich trying to convince his manager he can stay in the game right now.
And you need to know, as a manager, you need to know if he's healthy. You don't want to take any chances that he might not be able to make a play.
So Dietrich stays in. And the attention turns to Martin Prado at the plate.
You got to make sure the outfield, too, now that you can cut off anything. You don't want anything to get into the gaps, because if it does, Pollock, the pinch runner, can score.
Which in this ballpark opens up a lot of room when you play no doubles defense.
And then wouldn't you know, you have a guy up there who's been so tough on the Marlins over the years, Martin Prado.
Josh Wilson out there at first base. So Wilson pinch running.
So it is not A.J. Pollock.
Here's the 1-1. And it's 2-1. Ricky Delasco, 11 strikeouts. He had retired 14 straight before Didi Gregorius doubled to open the ninth. Mike Redmond went to Steve Cishek. The Diamondbacks have scored that run and have Wilson on at first. And Prado has run the count to 3-1 now against Cishek. You got another left-handed bat, Montero on deck. It's out, and it goes to the screen, and Arizona now has runners at first and second. And Cishek does not look sharp. And here's Montero, who is mired in a miserable season. Mike Dunn's ready.
Yeah, I was wondering, because we saw him warming up, and it was going to make Mike Redmond make a decision if it came down to this. Because of the inability of Cishek to get lefties, Mike Redmond's going to go to Mike Dunn in the bullpen.
So here comes Dunn. 2-1 Miami. Watch and hope. Mike Redmond and Chuck Hernandez looking at the lineup card, looking at the scouting report. Mike Dunn takes over for Steve Cishek. Miami still has the lead, but it's down to a run, and Arizona has runners at first and second. Miguel Montero, the Diamondbacks catcher, has been mired in a season-long slump. He's 0 for 3 in this ball game, 1 for 10 in the series.
To stretch that even further, 3 for his last 35.
Former Marlin Josh Wilson is out at second. Prado's at first. And Dunn misses outside. Nolasco, his line is complete. Ricky goes 8 innings, 5 hits, a run, a walk, 11 strikeouts. And his ERA is dipped under 4. It's out, and it's 2-0. If you want to go even further into Miguel Montero, he's 2 for 24 with runners in scoring position, but he doesn't have to take the bat off his shoulder if Mike Dunn can't throw a strike here. And he takes a rip at a fastball and fouls it off.
Two guys who have been tremendous out of the bullpen as of late have been Ryan Webb and Mike Dunn.
Fastball up, 3-1.
And the problem here is if Dunn doesn't throw strikes, now you get a bases loaded situation. You get Pennington, who's a switch hitter. You lose the advantage of lefty-lefty matchup.
Dunn, as Marlin fans know, is not a lefty specialist type guy. He can get righties out. But he doesn't get this lefty out. He walks him, and the bags are loaded. As agonizing as this season has gone for the Miami Marlins, Heath Bell, former Marlin, in the bullpen. What looked like a 2-0 Ricky Nolasco gem has turned into a nail-biter here with 2 outs in the top of the 9th.
Well, one time, Mike Redmond wanted a clean 1-2-3 9th inning, and he just isn't getting it. Just to take Dunn's situation a little further, lefty's hitting just 211, but right-hander's hitting only 235 against him.
And here is Pennington. Bags loaded, infield's deep. Nolasco's still watching and waiting and hoping. Letter high fastball for a strike. A.J. Pollock. Oh, 1 to Pollock. The Notre Dame product. Pollock's been in center field in the first 2 ball games. Ball and a strike. Outfield playing him to right center. The 1-1. Dunn gets a strike, and it's 1-2. Wilson. Prado, Montero. Nolasco. Done with the count 1-2 on Pollock. And it's in. He went after that same pitch. 2-2.
And just in case you're wondering, Mike Dunn had 6 save opportunities last year. Just 1 save. He's had just 1 save in the major leagues.
Two pitch. Line foul. Say this about Ricky Nolasco. In a season in which he has seen the roster change dramatically, Nolasco has conducted himself in an extremely professional manner. He hasn't complained. He has gone out every 5 days and given his best. He has continued to work hard between starts. He hasn't complained about awful run support. Two again. It's out.
Which, by the way, coming into this game, the run support for Ricky Nolasco was the 4th worst in the National League. 2.7 runs per game.
Mike Redmond pacing. The 3-2. It's fouled off and out of play. Mike Redmond told the press last night, after getting shut out by Brandon McCarthy, that he started the season at 215 pounds and that now he's down to 200 pounds. And if it keeps going like this, he expects to get to about 150 by the time September rolls around.
He'll be at his high school playing weight.
A.J. Pollock, 2 outs, 3-2 from Dunn. Fastball, ground ball, Echeverria to first, ball game. It wasn't easy, but for Ricky Nolasco, it was worth the wait. And Miami snaps a 7-game losing streak. Marcell Ozuna had the big hit. It was a 2-run double.
A lot of contributors in this one, Rich.
But of course, Ricky Nolasco, the headliner. 11 strikeouts and his 3rd win of the season. We'll talk to Nolasco when we return.